Um, yeah, it's good that we opened with some students singing. My dream at one point was to be a rapper, actually. But I think now that we know that Kun Samwon, Kun Walikong also uh, he wrote the song. Oh, okay, right, yeah, yeah. So maybe in the next forum we'll have some singing, both from academics and business as well, which is the intention for today's panel. The discussion in today's panel is all about how the academic community would need to collaborate with the business community, also business community collaborating, of course, with the academic community. There is an ongoing initiative between Peterborough, Thai as well as Carnegie Mellon University as well. Maybe you can, Dr. Oratai, maybe you can talk about this very interesting initiative.
Okay. Thank you for give us the opportunities to share our exciting initiative that we have with actually last year, not year 2017, that we have collaboration between King Mongkut Technologies Bank and Carnegie Mellon. We have this initiative to bring Carnegie Mellon, which is the number one on computer engineering, and it's a birthplace for artificial intelligence. Yeah, so we're excited to have them here because how we're gonna moving forward if we can work with someone that is know and is the expert of it and have been working with so many companies and various industries. It would be great for us to take a big leap and with a strong and someone that know how to go there, right? So, and really fortunate that we have a generous two partners that is our first believer that Thailand can be the leader of by adding technologies to our fundamental business, right? How we moving to be the next step, being the leader in our regions, right? So that's why we are very excited and happy to have these collaborations happening.
What do you call this initiative? Just for everyone to.
Actually we built our new universities to handle this initiative.
Okay.
Okay.
Right.
It's quite a big step. So it's called CMKL universities. So these universities we open for any university. Actually, we bring in a lot of Thai lecturers and other team and even the students from different universities to come in that want to learn and how to bring the technologies to the next level, how to apply it to make a difference to the business in the real world. So, and we don't walk alone. So we have Carnegie Mellon, which is Professor Young Kim. He's a director of the Carnegie Mellon KMITL program at Carnegie Mellon Pittsburgh, USA. So he's here with us too.
Right. Yeah, well, of course,
Yeah.
we're very privileged to have Dr. Kim join us today. So, Dr. Kim, do you see this increasingly happening across the world, this collaboration between the academic community and then the business community as well? Or is this something unique to Thailand?
Okay, so I arrived this morning from US. This was about 30-hour flight, snowstorm and all that. So this bright light is really bugging me the heck out of it. But anyway, so let me tell you about how the academia and industry works from my experience. I think it's a pretty new in Thailand, I think. We've been doing this for a very long time. For instance, you guys all talked about machine learning and AI and all that. Carnegie Mellon University, we started in 1960. So we are, I think, about 60 years ahead of the time. Usually some good idea comes, timing has to be right. We're a little bit early. But we've been doing that for a long time. And then we've been applying these things to government and industry. In the beginning, a lot of that had to do with software engineering. So you know Ronald Reagan, he started this Star Wars program, and in fact, I think we have a place called the SCI. There's a Software Engineering Institute. The reason that it came about is basically to the Star Wars plan, and that happened a long time ago, and it's all based on this data analytic and all the control theory and so on. So we've been doing that for a long time. Now we do a lot with the DARPA, the Department of Defense, and so on. So the government. But there are a lot of industry partners as well. For instance, Intel, Microsoft, Google, Facebook, and so on. All those places, they work with us. So what I found interesting here is you don't do that much with the university, but even in US, not every university do work with industry. I mean, Carnegie Mellon is a sort of special in that sense because, for example, myself, I like to work on practical things. I don't want to just publish paper and write some things that it's not going to matter. So we all take pride in the fact that whatever we do make difference out there. So we do a lot of work with the industry partners. And the interesting thing about the working with the industry partner is we come in and start asking questions. And interesting thing is a lot of industry partners, they actually don't know what question they're going to ask. I mean, a lot of times, because, and it's understandable because you work in a particular division of the company, that's what you're interested in, but you lack this overall view of where you're going. So it's always interesting, you know, I know SAP talked about you start with problem statement and whatever the solution and so on you do, you're going to get stuck with the first one. You go and ask, what's your problem? Most of the time you're not going to hear because, you know, they just look at what they do. So what academia provides, we come in, have no idea what you're doing, and just start asking questions. And that's very important because you bring out some issues that you never thought of.
All right. The capability to ask questions is very important as well. And I think you get it right. The TaiBev as well as Better Grow starting to be open to being asked these questions as well. So you get the clear intention of this particular initiative. Kuntirapan, it might have been a very unique way to start this partnership, right? What were the drivers of starting this partnership or this collaboration?
For TaiBev, because we aspire to be the sustainable ASEAN leaders, the keyword is sustainable. To be sustainable, we don't just only drive for the performance of the business. We have to look at the learning path as well, because to be survive in the longer terms, we need to build up our own capabilities. So we have been working with academics for a while. Working with CMKL is take us to a new way of working also.
And Better Grow? What were the intentions for working with CM?
I think we see an opportunity. Working with university is not a new thing in Thailand, as a matter of fact, but we work on the level of students exchange or some apprentice or some kind of improvements in well-known areas, such as like reliability, that kind of things, right? Six Sigma even. But when it comes to cutting-edge technology, we feel that we do not have good examples of research that can answer the needs of the industry, right? Especially for those areas that are critical, do or die case. I believe that this is a new case that we are getting into, which is like we give them a kind of a very important strategic area to work on and keep our fingers crossed and see how things will develop from it.
Right. In the work so far, what sort of questions have been asked by the academe on the basis that this collaboration will really open up to some questions that were never asked in the organization before?
Before I get into that questions, I want to give you some example of, I just want to touch base on
sustainability,
right? Like that said that when he worked with us, it's a whole new way of doing things, right? So I used to be the student at Carnegie Mellon, and I used to teach, I'm still teaching at QMITL, and I'm also still working with Carnegie Mellon professors, right? And when I was a student at Carnegie Mellon, collaborations with the industry is normal. It's like, I used to sit in the building that, you know, top floor is Intel, another floor is Apple, and the other one is, I think the basement is Google. So they walk, and sometimes they have talk during the lunchtime. I go and talk to people, right? So I think it makes the, you know, the, it doesn't so rigid how we're gonna talk to, you know, to the industry. We exchange the idea, we talk, we ask questions, because sometimes we cannot, like here, when we do research at, for example, in Thai universities, they said, okay, what do you want? And they told you exactly what's the problem. And they said, are you sure? Sometimes you stuck with that problem because you cannot find someone to solve that problem. And sometimes the companies doesn't really know exactly that's the real problem, right? And you're stuck on something that is not really going anywhere. So instead of we doing that, in our initiative here, we sort of setting the goal that, you know, it can be, you know, 5 years from now to make the business be a leader, have a competitive edge, right? So we look at the goal and then we talk, we go to their site, the factories, we talk to different teams and then we ask questions. And at the end of the day, we talk to each other and say, you know, if you want to do this, you know how far from here? Because he are the one, you know, doing the technologies, you know where the technology lives, right? And how far off the gaps that we have to invest into it, right? Because we have a limited resource of people and money and time, right? So we should to pick the problems that gonna win all of us, right? Not just for academia, not just for the business, right? Because if we, for the academia itself, meaning that we push the edge of the technologies, for here, they can be the leader on the business side of it, right? If we can pick those problems, I think it's going to be win-win, right? But along the way, we allow ourselves to open to possibility to change, to adapt, to not just stick to certain thing, right? Because we are not consulting companies that coming in and say, here's your task X, finish X, you're done, right? That's not it. Right.
So do you envision this to be a long-term, let's figure this out together type of initiative as well? But you've zeroed in on, I think, the theme or the objective of sustainability. Maybe that is your overarching business objective. What has been the set of discovery so far in this particular theme?
We focus on two things. One is on the supply chain. Another one is on the consumer insight. And then on supply chain, for example, when we bring in the fresh eye view from the academics, when they look at our data and how we run the business, most of the time we have, if they ask, we might have an answer, but we just let the team explore the data and try to discover like some new way to improve our efficiency.
Is there like a scare factor as well, that you get criticized or you sort of feel embarrassed that you did not just know this, assuming that you know the business very well, but it takes an outside person to really point that out to you?
That's a two part, because when we develop, for example, when we try to optimize a certain thing, when we do with traditional ways, we might optimize a certain part. But in reality, this thing talk to each other. So it's influence another, the way that the other team is working. To optimize it at the global level is require, if we use a traditional way, it will require a lot of computation power to calculate that one. But in the business, we want a solution, but we want it fast also. We don't have like forever time to do the optimization. So some new things like machine learning can maybe give us, it might not be the best answer, but within a certain response time, we need to get a guidance on like how we can react. And then if we get that kind of the response, it can make us become more agile to the changes of the demand and the supply in our supply chain.
Okay. Kun Waranan?
Well, just to rewind to your question a little bit of what kind of question. I think a fresh pair of eyes with intelligence backed up by the data can change the way you look at things.
Okay.
So the first, before they even ask the question, they ask for information, data, and then they look into the pattern, and then they come back and they ask questions that really sometimes knock your socks off. In a way like, hey, we haven't thought about that before. It's just like a challenge of the status quo that bring the first value to the industry. It's just like okay, we haven't thought about that before because it's the way that we do things forever. We evolve and we kind of carry it along with us, right? And the second question that you asked, if there is a kind of a resistance in the organization, I would say, to be honest with you, yes. And I think you have to prove that this is like a goodwill, the act of goodwill, the act of things that can help them rather than to impede them or point out the flaws that they have. So it's a thing that you really have to manage internally on how to make sure that whatever they come and help will be beneficial and valued by the people in the business.
Is this particularly difficult for a Thai organization? Not necessarily talking about Better Grow, but for a typical organization in Thailand, is there? Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, because
it's quite typical.
Okay.
For us to guard something you value so much.
Okay.
And it's the dilemma because while you're guarding it's so hard, you lose the chance to improve and learn, right? So up to the point that you really have to show them some kind of examples. That's the reason why Professor Kim, I think we've been working on one of the projects, right? And he just think that we probably have to find some quick win. Unless otherwise, it will be a long, and then the organization will lose the momentum to get the buy-in. So that's a little bit on the political side of the organization when it comes to AI, right?
Right.
But it's very critical to make things work.
Okay. Professor Kim, for this particular initiative, you're obviously looking for data, right? But how do you go beyond the resistance of a company to share their data? Because it might be quite complicated politically.
Yeah, I'll tell you about past experience. I don't want to talk about the current project. We're not there yet, right? But I'll tell you about the past project, which is pretty interesting. And yeah, I think I signed an NDA, so I'm not going to say the name of the company. This company serves about 100 million customers. They're over 15 countries, and it's a huge organization. And interestingly, the operational people don't trust their development people, so they don't even share the data among themselves. But they came to us and said, here, I want you to look at it, and said, how come you're not using those guys? They said, oh, they have a different, we don't trust them. But the reason they came to us is they saw what we did with other companies, right? So they looked at it and said, why don't you come and look at it and tell us what it is? So it's not just Thai, it's everywhere. If they have a different silo, they don't want to share the information, and they're afraid that someone will come and say, you're doing this wrong, or there's a better way to do it. But it takes a strong leader to say, hey, I'm here to learn and what we could do better, right? So I think that worked pretty well, and and we want to go in as the thing academics bring in, and I think a lot of you, if you are from the industry, you guys are always focused on daily operation, and it's hard to look at the overall view of things and sit back and look at the whole operation. You don't have time and energy to do that. So if you bring in some people who would ask some stupid or some good questions, because we have no idea what that is about, we are learning, but we come with some fresh eyes and trying to look at the problem which you never thought that you had, and that's the big thing that you gain, I think, and that's where we come in.
In the search for quick wins, you obviously have a certain methodology so that you are able to assure the industry or your business partners that, okay, this is going to be a good enough, a quick win to gain momentum for the project, or for a bigger set of projects and so on. I mean, is there a way that we can assure a certain quick win in the first few months or maybe first year of engagement?
You see, there's no magic. There's no free lunch, right? There's nothing that you will just come in and say, I'll show you quick win, and I come out with an amazing question that you guys will be happy. It doesn't work like that. I mean, we've been working with Thai Vet and Beta Group for more than a year already. Okay, the whole project started last year, but we've been engaging them even before that. So through that relationship, we get to talk about, and sometimes over drink, sometimes a Chang beer, we'll come out with, hey, what about that? What about this? And then there's no formula that comes, right? But it requires a relationship and, trust in some sense.
And I'm sure over drinks, there's going to be magic anyway, right? But yeah, you want to say?
I think he told you his trick already, his magic already. But to put things in perspective, I think it's a matter of trust that the industry needs to point into a pain point that we have honestly. And sometimes you have to admit that you don't know what you don't know, right? Because sometimes you just feel proud of with ignorance or whatsoever that we don't know that this is kind of a critical thing until they might come and say, hey, let's look at this one more time and see what kind of things. And once we admit ourselves that, okay, we might not know this, let's work on it together. The key word I just said to you is based on collaboration, such that there is no contractual roles that you do this, I do that, we exchange it through email this way. But it's more into let's sit together over a nice restaurant or beer or something, and let's talk about it. Really, what matters for you and what matters for what kind of things you could help. And we could miss the point. We could, it might not be the thing that we can work on, but we learn and we move on to the point that it works for us.
Let's reverse this a bit. So we talked about what the business needs from the academe, which is all about these very sometimes difficult questions that need to be asked. What would the academe need from business?
We need the practical problems. We want to solve something and, return something that matters. We want to make a difference. Like he mentioned earlier, that we want to feel proud on something that is actually working and someone's value it and using it, right? That's something that I will be proud of. So that's what we strive for.
Okay.
And actually in our collaboration, it's not like they are coming here to get knowledge from someone. It's not like that. We learn from each other because we come from a different background and a different strength. Because some of the business, they are in the business for a long, long time. They have a lot to share. You just have to ask them. And we build it over relationship. Because you cannot come and have someone sit here for 5 minutes and ask me questions and we're going to give you all, right? It's not something like that. It's like we have been working and we meet each other pretty often and over, you can imagine how much for the week on. So to get those information out, right? So now we understand each other, what kind of goal they want to strive for and what kind of things that we can help them. And to be honest, we want them to be successful. And if they're not successful, that's not a healthy R&D cycle, right? Because our partner is successful, we will be successful too. So that's how things going to work. So what we want, we try to leverage something that's already happened. If there already something or some knowledge that's already happens, already exists, we try to adapt and to see. We don't need to start everything from scratch, to be honest.
And I think that brings us to this concept of openness, right? And I think it's very good that we call this particular forum OPEN-TEC, right? I'm sure that there will be some OPEN-TEC initiatives as well. This is the era of collaboration, openness to third parties, openness to academe, business partnerships, and so on. And I think that's something that we should also look at. But you also need maybe data coming from the companies themselves, right? Because without this data, then you're not going to be able to ask those questions, but also work on the projects that you like to be proud of in the end. What are the terms of exchange of this data?
For the data itself, actually, we still academia, right? We still have to work with the people inside the organizations to get the data. So a lot of communications and exchange and everything. Sometimes we even have to help them how to extract those things. So otherwise, if we just wait here and say until they send us something, it's gonna take forever. So we are thinking like a team. It's not like your job, my job. If you can get me that, it's not gonna work, right? So we think as a team. If you fail, we need to help. If they stuck on something, we gotta help each other out. Otherwise, we all gonna fail, right?
Okay. Kirapan, your comments here?
Yeah, it's just similar to what Dr. Oraitai mentions. But if some data is sensitive, maybe we can do some encoding, like instead of putting the product name. Maybe we convert it to something else. But and eventually, if they want to publish it, we still have to go through the screening process. What can be published on the paper and so on. Yeah.
Sure. All right. We open the floor to questions here. So at least we know the background of this collaboration, this particular initiative. Any questions from the floor? Okay, yeah. One of the lessons that I learned is that we have to be open, right? So don't be shy. Questions? Okay. Okay.
Having worked for with a Thai organization for over a year now, what's the can you share with us the challenge and maybe the challenge and the fun,
The challenge and the fun.
Yeah.
Okay.
Challenge is, I don't know Thai. I mean, he was talking about how, they need to anonymize product and all that. You see, all Thai, I don't even know what those are. So I had to say, is that a whiskey or is that a beer? I had no idea. But challenge is not particularly for Thai companies. Challenge is for every company. It's all same. That's pretty interesting. It's not different because it's a Thai company. In fact, the American companies tends to be even more safeguarding their data than other companies, like a European or Asian companies. So that's the interesting part. So actually, there's less challenge there. And language and culture, obviously, I don't really understand. Only few words I know what's in Thai, because I've been here more than 10 times, I think. 30-hour flight, remember that. Fun is being here. It's just a lot more fun to be in Thailand with all these folks and learning new things. And in fact, the most fun that I will say a year later will be, you see, we did this, and they benefited this much. That's what we love. I mean, engineers, you want to see the real thing. So a bunch of projects in Carnegie Mellon, for instance, you have Seagate here, right? Big factory. All the stuff that Seagate makes, the technology, the core technology of reading the data bit, came out of the Carnegie Mellon. We do that. And I worked on telecom systems. At one point, not now, but at one point, 95% of the internet data was going through my system. Okay, this is a real thing. I mean, that's what we love. So, you shouldn't think all the universities are same. So CNKL will be like that, just like that, because they take our DNA.
Okay. Let's talk about this future of this initiative. Let's talk about how this expands or how this broadens, right? You're looking for more business partnerships. What is the end goal?
Definitely.
Okay. Right.
Yeah. So we definitely welcome any, organizations, even though public or private companies. It would be, we would love to use our knowledge and our expertise to help you moving forward, and we would love to see, especially Thai, organizations to be a leader in the world stage. So we can do that together. So I think.
So any company can just really approach you as well. But what about the companies represented here as well? How do you ensure that whatever you learn from this collaboration also spreads throughout the entire organization? Definitely you cannot keep this as a sort of like a secret project or a center of excellence project for AI. You need to make sure that as you discover a lot more insights from your data or you gain more skills, the entire organization also scales up, right? Yeah.
It has a lot to do with internal communication and engagement of the potential, they call it the first bandwagon, the people who can adopt fast and leadership level and have a proper support and communications. And once it bears some fruits, you probably have to make sure that it returns to the working group initially and returns to the company and make a success story out of it. So it has a lot to do with internal engagement and communication. It has a lot to do with you really have to pick up the right topic. The important one, but takes longer, might have to be done in parallel to a quick win, if any. That kind of a thing.
Okay. On my part, when we do the project together, it's not just only those like employee that we will send to study them, because when we do the project, we might have someone who learn a very advanced technology, but eventually after that thing done, we have to deploy it back into the business. So we have to prepare our internal team that ready to operate that one. So in the research, we involve not just only the potential candidate to study, but also the other IT staff within organization to participate in the project to help with the research. In addition to that, we also have to prepare for the non-IT people because some of this will be deployed back to them. So we need to have a proper process to prepare them so that they can get up to the same speed. Right.
I just want to add a little bit on the collaborations format that we have in the past year with our partners here. So thanks for, they see how the sustainability gonna go. So instead of just doing the R&D research project together, they even try to build the human capacities. So part of it, they even send the students like to study like PhD and master students. Those guys gonna be the, the next generation of leaders to lead this thing. Otherwise, if you don't build people as long as you build the work, you're gonna have some gap at the end, right? And I think one of the things that in the past year that make things, I think, more smoothly in the sense that we're working together is that they bring in employees to work with us. And we don't close it. We said, okay, more people, that's fine. Because eventually they have to operate that, whatever we are building, right? So.
Okay, very good. Yeah, other questions from the floor? Yes.
Hi. Well, what, if any, role do you think the government has in encouraging this kind of collaboration to happen? I mean, even if that role is just get out of the way, is there a role to be played? Sometimes we see these projects like, Software Park or whatever that are kind of contrived in a way to say this is where it will happen. And if you look at the success of places like in the U.S., like the Research Triangle in North Carolina, or Route 128 in Boston, or Silicon Valley. These are things that kind of grew up organically in these collaborative academic and private sector environments. What do you think? How can we make that happen here? And is there a role, and there may very well be one, for the government to kind of make that happen a little bit more rapidly? Sorry for the loaded question, but
Yep.
Actually, you just got it right. They get out of the way. So the first thing they did is they issued Article 44. CMKL universities was established under Article 44, 29/2560. So that is the law that we use. The essence of that law is that they waive every regulations, rules that are tied to academics. Like, for example, certain curriculums, it needs to follow a lot of rules, okay? Now, we can waive all those things. We don't have to follow it. So technically, we can bring Carnegie Mellon as it is. So whatever they learn, how they work, we can just bring it here. So we don't have to worry about those rules that we have to comply, otherwise we're not gonna get passed. So that one, they did, yeah. But after that, I still have my wishful list that they're gonna support more.
Okay. Like what?
Funding.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, very good. Yeah, comments here on the...
I think to make this thing work, you have to look at all the ecosystem. Because right now, CMKL focus on the master degree and the PhD degree. Then to make it work, we also need a lot of resources, especially from the bachelor degree level. So on that part, we also need government, especially on the academic side, to prepare the resource to come in. On the business side, even those that already graduate, and then we need to retrain them because there's a lot of changes in the technology.
Yep.
So that is another thing that we need the support from the government to help lead human resource development in the country.
Sure. Let me focus on this human resource issue in the closing segments of our conversation. What do we really need for Thailand in terms of skills, right? I mean, you cannot say data scientist because the data science is really, really a broad thing. In specific, what are the skills that we really need to develop fast so that, we will succeed with AI?
I think the skill should be the one that actually all the business here, they want someone that can work, period, right? Just be able to work. Because sometimes you said, okay, we can produce so many computer engineers, actually more than 10,000, 2,000, right, from different universities. But if you look at the market, they still cannot find the right people to work on it, right? So the questions come back to how we build qualified people, how we build people that can work, right? So I think that's why it's come back to how we set up this thing. So our our master and PhD program, actually when the students coming in, we will tie them to the project. They will start working. So by the end that they graduate, they should be ready to work, right? So that I think everyone wants that. We don't have to wait until, they graduate and then you have to go and train them. That's just wasting for everyone, right? So.
Right. Okay. Yes, Dr. Kim.
Yeah. So when you talk about human resources, people tend to think, we need more computer engineers or data scientists and all that. But that's all wrong. You shouldn't be thinking that. It's the person. Those are content. Content changes all the time. That's why it's a pain for me to teach a course which changes like 30% every year. I wish I'm teaching electromagnetics in physics or something, then that would be forever, right? So, but it's not the content. Content goes away. Okay, now AI is so big deal, but it's nothing more than processor being fast and you could store a lot. So we do all the things we've been talking about 60 years ago. But it's gonna pass. I mean, all these things come and go. So that's not where you focus. You focus about the people who are willing to take risk, not afraid to fail. And I think I see a lot of that. I mean, Japan was great, but culturally, they never tolerate failure. If you fail, you are just done. So if you are afraid of failure, you're not going to risk anything. And I don't know what the Thai culture is like. The reason that you don't have a lot of startup and new things because you are afraid to fail. And there's a huge price to pay. But in US, it's not like that. If you have failed once or twice, that's okay. That's an experience. So you gotta I don't know how you do that. We just call it like Wild West kind of thing, cowboys. You try things and it's okay, if it works or not, and question everything, right? So that's what you need. Then you're gonna be successful at what you do.
Right. Maybe Okay, very good. Yeah, so the ability to ask questions, ability to work right away with business context, ability to also be flexible, right, in terms of like knowledge, but also skills. I mean, those are the skills, not the technical ones so much, but these are the different set of skills that we have to make sure that everyone gains to succeed with AI in the future. Last call for questions. There'll be another one. Thank you very much for your time. I thank our esteemed panelists today as well. And we wish you well in this initiative. Thank you so much.